What is going on, guys and gals? Schematically here coming at you with another X-Plane 11 video. Today we're going to be doing a VOR flight or VHF flight from Honolulu International over to Maui in this beautiful Cirrus Vision SF50. We just got a pushback from the gate there. So let's go ahead and get on it here. I figured I would do this just because it's something a little bit different from typical 737 MD-82 airliner travel type stuff. Should be pretty interesting. We're going to fly VFR, which means that we'll stay at or below 3,000 feet for the duration of the flight. And we don't really have to interact with ATC at all. I'm not going to get flight following or anything like that for this little hop, but should be relatively interesting. I do like the Cirrus jet quite a lot, actually. I've been flying it a fair amount. It's a lot of fun. I actually have a buddy who works for a rival of Cirrus called Honda Jet, and they also make a very light jet, VLJ, and he works as a flight test engineer, so I figured I had to fly this airplane around just to bust his chops a little bit. But should be fun. I told him if the Honda Jet was in X-Plane 11, I would fly that. But it's a joy to fly. I figured I would actually do like a quasi VHF tutorial. It's a little bit different than how you would maybe fly VHF in a Cessna 172. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, VHF basically it means very high frequency. It's kind of the old school mode of aircraft navigation back before RNAV, GPS. And you know, still today a lot of people navigate predominantly using VHF, and basically VHF, if you've seen at an airport for instance the kind of circular arrays of antennas that go out in each direction, so those are actually radial antennas, and that's called a VOR, or a what is it, a VHF, it's a Vortec VHF, I don't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but basically each one of those little radio arrays is what you call a radial, and that's actually how you navigate. So once we hold short of the runway here, I'll pull up the flight course we're gonna fly and talk a little bit more about that. Slight problem with the Cirrus jet in that at idle it actually speeds up, and that may be a problem with my sliders in X-Plane, but you'll see that I have to tap the brakes to get the thing to slow down, because even at idle with the parking brake off, it's a little too eager. Okay, so we're going to be taking off runway, I want to say 8 today, which is right here. And she doesn't require a whole lot of room to get up and go. She's pretty zippy, so should be cool. Very long runway here for 747s. Alright, and add some brake, try and slow down. Gonna have to slam on brakes here, and we'll come to a full stop, and I'll pull up the map just so we can talk about the flight path. Okay, so what I was kind of talking about, we could probably see a little bit better here if I zoom in, but basically these things are called Vortex, and they're circular VHF arrays, and as you can see, even though these are a little bit screwy because north is not actually straight up, it's actually canted off at like 10 degrees for some reason, beta issues, you can see that each Vortex has or VOR has a kind of like an azimuthal compass out from it, and basically we can fly on a radial outward. So let's say that we want to fly from where we're at right now, this Vortec Honolulu HNL, over to this Vortec CKH, and we can do that by flying the 090 outbound radial from HNL, and eventually we would hit CKH if we stayed on that radial. Now, there's a little bit of a nuance to that, and I'll talk about that once we get up in the air, but basically today our flight plan is going to be something like this. we're going to be flying direct down to Lanai, the Vortac there. And once we hit the Lanai Vortac, and I'll tell you how I know when we hit it, we will turn and fly to Maui. And that's pretty much the flight path. So let's go ahead and get flaps out and get this thing in the air. I don't actually know if they have the GPS implemented for the SF-50, but I actually kind of enjoy flying it as a VFR airplane. It's actually really sporty, pretty enjoyable. Has some pretty cool characteristics to it. Alright, so I'm going to do a roll and start here, and we'll go ahead and get up in the air. And we won't be interacting with ATC at all today. I guess we could get flight following in real life, but I don't think that that's a feature implemented in the beta just yet. Alright, there's 100. I'm going to go ahead and rotate very gently. Alright, positive rate, gears coming up. Alright, flaps coming up also. Try and maintain a nose up attitude here, climb out. You have some not insignificant foothills on our path. Okay, so this airplane does have an autopilot, unlike the 172. So I'll go ahead and look down here, go ahead and start typing in what I'm going to type in. I'm going to pull back on the throttle just a bit. She actually will climb pretty fast. Goes up at around 3,000 feet per minute there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut on the autopilot, and that's going to engage wings level mode. And we will go ahead and engage heading mode for right this moment. And whoops, that's not what I meant to do. So we will sync the heading, and it'll hold right where we're at. There we go. Okay, so now what we want to do is more or less just monitor our altitude in this climb until we get to about 3,000 feet is probably where we're going to stay. And then we'll level off with the altitude sync. Oh, it's actually already set. So we can just go ahead and set the altitude for 3,000 feet exactly. And it should level off once we hit 3,000. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and start worrying about nav here. So I'm going to tune my nav frequency to the frequency of that VHF, which you can tell in X-Plane 11 by actually clicking on them in the map. I have them written down, just because that's a little bit less obtrusive. It is more immersive, I guess you might say. But the frequency of the first Vortac in Lanai City is 117.7. Alright, and we just hit cruise, so we're going to go ahead and power back just a bit. And I'm going to set this to 117.7 and switch that in. Okay. And as you can see from the nav screen here, we would need to fly about 151. But what we can do here to fly directly to Lanai City, but what we can do is we'll go ahead and throttle back just a little bit, don't want to go too fast. And then we can actually move the course until we're on a radial that we're actually, intersecting, which will be somewhere over here, should be. Oh, maybe not. Let's try going the other way with that. Okay, there we go. So basically I'm trying to line up that line in the center with the actual course, okay? And once we've done that, that'll tell us more or less what heading we need to fly to go direct to Lanai City. So let's go ahead and do that. Turn to 115. And again, this is not meant to be like a proper VHF navigation tutorial or anything like that. I'm just kind of doing it off the cuff. But if that's something you guys are interested in, do let me know, because I'd be more than happy to do that in the 172. I think if you're going to learn VHF navigation, that's probably the easiest way to do it. Okay, So now we have turned to fly direct to Lanai, so we can just kind of relax here. What I will do is I'll go ahead and push this nav button down here, and that will actually keep us directly on the radial that we're flying inbound to that VOR, and we won't have to chase the needle, as they say. Okay, pretty easy. We'll set cruise speed of about 180 knots. Let's take a look outside. We haven't done that yet. Very pretty airplane. I actually really like how it's styled. A lot of my friends say it looks dorky. I like it. It's a little bit bulbous. And there is Hawaii down there below us. I've never actually been to Hawaii. I'd really like to go at some point. I'm sure I'll make it out there eventually. Beautiful. I figured it would be some interesting scenery, and we get to fly over the ocean and stuff. So, very cool. So I'm not sure exactly what the duration of this flight's probably going to be around, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes. Should be fun though. Oops, give it a little bobble there. Just got to test how well that autopilot works. Got myself a tall glass of beer here, enjoying myself a little bit on the start of the weekend. Hope you all are as well. So I wonder if small commuter jets like the Cirrus and the Honda Jet are going to become like mainstays. I just don't know if there are enough people who need to commute regularly in a VLJ for those to become a reality or not. But I mean, Gulfstream does really well. Not that they're, you know, VLJs, but I guess kind of a similar market. The businessman who needs to, you know, get somewhere more quickly. I would sure like to have one. I think they're awesome. Just to look at the interior a little bit. Touchscreens here, and these are actually working. I hope that they'll implement more in these touchscreens, because you can actually just click on them. I mean, they're effectively buttons, right? But kind of neat. And the door actually will open if I press that. And the engine will actually turn off if I turn that switch. But it looks kind of like the interior of a car. You know, it's much more kind of refined. Not quite as airplane outer space looking. I think it's cool. It's kind of a neat change of pace. November 251 Charlie Victor. It's also kind of nice to not have to worry about ATC. And really, we can fly this kind of however we want. I don't have to fly using the autopilot, you know, I can fly it by hand. We can go down low, take a look at the water. Let's do that actually. Might as well. So you actually fly the altitude change, much like you would in a 737. So I'm just gonna pull the altitude down. It'll continue to hold here. We're gonna pull it way on down. Go down to around, you know, 700 feet. Okay, and now we're going to switch into vertical speed, and we will drop that sucker right on down, and we'll throttle back as we do that so as to not overspeed the aircraft. We're going to go hunt some whales, I guess. But yeah, we're flying VFR, right? So we can just kind of look about freely. Although I was planning on flying this as sort of a commuter hop, so not gonna get too sidetracked unless we see something really cool. But it's interesting. No auto throttle in the airplane, which is pretty typical of anything that isn't a heavy jet. Although my friend tells me they are working on auto throttles over at Honda, so that'd be an interesting feature to have. It's really not too hard to set the throttle yourself though, so maintains, you know, pretty well. See if we see any ships out on the horizon. I don't think I see anything. Have to keep an eye out though. Beautiful day in Hawaii. Okay, so before I was kind of talking about how I'll know when we hit this VOR that we're flying direct to now so that we can make our turn towards Maui. Basically, I'm looking at this nav MFD over here, and I see that we're flying 115 direct to that VOR. Once we hit that VOR, this 2 is going to switch from, and it's very subtle, and you could miss it, so you have to check it occasionally, just so that you know when to initiate your turn. But that's eventually going to switch from when we fly directly over that VOR, at which point we will turn to the northeast and fly direct to the Maui VOR. So that's basically what I was saying. Now, let me think about this. In a 172, I think the head of the arrow would actually flip as we flew over the VOR. I think that's right. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to add some power here since we've now leveled out at 700 feet. All right, let's take a look outside. Yeah, not way too interesting. Water's looking pretty uniformly wavy. That's okay. Alright, let's go ahead and climb back up here. So again, if we want to fly altitude change, we'll just raise the altitude up to something higher than we're at right now. Go right on, let's go up to 2,500. Okay. Oops. And then we'll fly vertical speed, and we'll climb back up nice and slow. And we'll add power. Typically, you don't actually have to fly from VOR direct to VOR. You can actually do what's called like a VOR intersect, which means that you intersect a radial of another VOR as you're flying on a radial outbound from the first VOR. We're not going to be able to do that in this airplane because I can't actually switch the nav display to look at nav 2. There is a channel for nav 2 on the radio, but I cannot actively swap it, and I'm not, maybe this would do it, I don't know, I'm not going to mess with it. But in a 172 you can actually see both of those needles at the same time, and it would more or less tell you where your location in space was when you intersected a radial on another radial, because all you need to describe a point is, you know, the intersect of two lines. Let's go ahead and try this, actually. Might not work. Okay, so the Maui VOR is on 115.1. I'm going to go ahead and put it in heading hold instead of nav, just in case anything weird happens. But we will, whoops, got to sync the heading first, duh. Okay, so that'll keep us wings level. Alright, so now let's go ahead and switch over the nav. Okay, so that does actually switch the radio, but it does not, I cannot switch the MFD, which is kind of a shame, because typically that's a more common method of navigating. It's a little bit more efficient than flying VOR to VOR, but that's fine. You know, I'm sure it'll be implemented eventually. I also see that there is we have an approach, so I guess the airplane is ILS equipped. We also have a VNAV, which makes me think that it might be GPS equipped as well. So we'll see if those features get implemented. I'm not sure how much of that they're going to be able to do on the multifunction displays, but it'll be cool to see as the beta kind of goes along here. Hope everybody's enjoying the content. Going to be working hard to put out a few videos this weekend. I know I haven't been quite as regular with the upload schedule, but I've been really busy for work, doing a lot of good things there, so that's the deal. Space shuttle video hopefully coming up. I was telling a subscriber I've landed well short of Edwards by a few hundred miles, and I've landed well long by a few hundred miles, so I've kind of worked out exactly how to descend in the space shuttle and how to slow down, and now I need to do both of those things at the right rate to maintain my energy, so that I get to Edwards at 80,000 feet and can circle back and do exactly what I did in the full approach video, which now has over 1,000 views on it, and that is really awesome. And thank you guys so much, sincerely, for each and every view. It's very cool to me, because I think the video I had before I started playing X-Plane, or posting X-Plane, with the most views was like 90 or something. So that's a quantum leap for me. Views don't really matter, but it is cool to see that it's getting out there to people, and that people are enjoying it. So. Okay, so what I'll go ahead and do here is I'll switch back into nav mode. You can see we're actually drifting a bit to the left here. So if I put it in nav mode, the airplane's gonna come right very slightly, which you can see there. It'll adjust heading so that we get back on that radial, and then it'll turn back to the left as we intercept the radial. So pretty cool. Cessna, you're not going to be doing that. You're going to be chasing the needle by hand, I guess, because there's no autopilot in that airplane, and that's kind of why I said you should learn to fly it in the 172 first, because it really helps you kind of figure out exactly what it is that you're trying to do, as far as how a VHF navigation indicator reads. I'm going to try not to look at the map unless we just get completely lost here, because I have all the frequencies written down. Trying to get a little bit more realistic, I guess, in my videos. Not that I'm going to be adding in, I don't know, like passenger noise add-ons or anything like that. It's just modding flight sims. Really, I mean, that's a hobby in and of itself, you know. Not saying that that's like, you know, boring or dumb. I don't have time for it, me personally. It looks like the Cirrus has a little cargo bay back here, maybe. Not sure, that might be for a battery or something. Pretty cool. It's awesome that jet engines have gotten efficient enough that we can have, you know, VLJs with pretty decent range, and a jet engine of that size. I mean, look at this. We've got like just air conditioning controls over here. Looks exactly like, you know, my car. Um, got the air conditioning vent over here that we can pop open. It's just neat. Very kind of different feel to this airplane, definitely. Stitched leather around the console. It's just, I don't know, cool details like that. Alright, so we're still flying the 115 inbound. So I'm still looking for that 2 to switch to a from, and then we will we'll actually go back to heading hold mode, and then we will turn our nav 1 channel over to Maui and manipulate the course to see about what radial we're intercepting, and then we'll make that turn. Looks like we're having a little bit of a phugoid mode pitch oscillation type deal going on here. That's a little interesting. Not too sure why that happened there. Yep, and there it goes again. Huh. Not sure what the deal is with that. Really like the tail on this thing. It's pretty awesome. Neat little X. Okay, so I think the VOR is probably going to be right around here. I suspect. Because I don't believe... I think it's this landmass that we're going to be turning at. And if that is the case, we should probably climb a bit. Yeah, I see something out there in the distance. A little field. Yep, there's a little strip there, so we're getting ready to fly right over that VOR. So we'll try not to miss that. We'll go ahead and tune the backup channel on nav1 over to 115.1. Right, and then we'll switch that in as soon as we hit the VOR here, which I suspect should happen any moment. Okay, and we just saw it switch over. So what I'll do now is I'll put it in heading hold mode, and the reason that I do that is because when I switch the nav channel, and if we're still in nav mode, the airplane will do some weird stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and switch. All right, and now we can manipulate the course to see what radial we need to fly to get to Maui directly. Okay, and let's pick one that we're a bit out from. All right, and we'll go ahead and turn to 057. Oops, that's the wrong way. Don't want to turn that way. It's a little weird how they have the switches kind of set up. Or not the switches, but the knobs. It's not very consistent from airplane to airplane. Okay. So now we're going to turn to 057 and we'll see. Yeah, we're still going to be a bit to the left of that. It looks like we've got some pretty serious mountains between us and Maui. That's fine. Maybe we'll shoot up through this canyon here, see if we can get a cool view. I might go higher than 3,000 feet, but again, flight sim, don't really care too much about that. I'm actually not even sure if 3,000 feet is like a hard ceiling on VFR or how that works. Okay, so we're actually flying parallel to the course right now, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put it in nav mode, and it will deviate to the right again and put us right on that radial. And it's going to deviate quite a bit because we must be pretty far out from 057. Alternatively, I could have just maintained that heading and turned the knob such that we were on a more suitable radial. But you can kind of do what you feel, VFR. And this is the type of flying that most commercial pilots do. Excuse me, most private pilots do, if you're unaware. So guys who, like me, would just get a pilot's license for recreation, you know, this is kind of the type of flying that I would like to do, because it's, you know, it's cool. You get to look out and actually fly the airplane. It's awesome. And there's no real reason for me to just fly these radials. I can deviate from the track. Might actually do that. See if we can get up through this valley here. I think that's probably exactly what I'm going to do. So I'll put it in heading hold, and then we'll go ahead and deviate right on over to 057. I think that'll put us... let's actually come left just a little more. 050. But it's fine for me to do this because I can still tell where I'm at by using the course bug. Yeah, I think that'll put us right through that little valley there. Go ahead and climb up just a little bit. Go right on up to 3,000. If we need to go higher, we will. No big deal. Okay, vertical speed. We'll go ahead and climb. Add a little bit of power. And once we get kind of through that valley, we might actually be able to see Maui from there. Not too sure how far it's going to be. I think it was about a little shorter leg than it would have been from Honolulu to Lanai. But you can tell if we just do this, what heading we'll need to fly once we get through that little nook up there. It's looking like we're going to have to exceed 3,000 feet to get through there, but that's fine. Probably disengage the autopilot as we get a little bit closer, just so I can kind of hand fly us up through that canyon. Very cool. Looks like we got some traffic up there. Still haven't seen a boat. It's kind of weird. Typically you do see them with a, you know, decent frequency. Okay, I'm gonna come a little bit right here. Whoops, I cannot get that right. We might be able to clear that. Famous last words. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and disengage heading mode. We'll just go to wings level. How about that? That way we can just kind of fly it in ourselves, and we'll maintain this altitude, more or less. Okay. Yeah, it's looking like it might be best for us to climb up just a little bit. Go ahead and make it so. This is gonna be cool. Awesome shot. Really cool. Flying in Hawaii must be like a really unique experience. I bet helicopter and like small aircraft tours are pretty popular. Alright, let's go ahead and continue this climb right on up, and we're gonna go right through that little gap there. Right in front of us. The airplane's gonna get mad, but that's okay. We'll let it descend down after we get through here. Right now it kind of wants to fly us into the mountain, but that's fine. Let's take a peek. Cutting it close here. Beautiful. Be a bunch of hikers on these mountains. Like, what is this guy doing right now? All right, let's go ahead and get it nose down just a little bit. We don't want to drop too vigorously here. Be a good way to get ourselves into trouble. Okay, it actually looks like that might be Maui right there. So let's see if that is indeed the case. We can tell that by adjusting our course. And then we can go ahead and switch over to nav. And descend as well. Because if that's the case, then we need to go ahead and get down. It looks like it might be. So I'm actually going to go ahead and disengage the autopilot, more or less entirely here. We'll just fly it in by hand. Looks like we're actually lined up perfectly for, I guess that would be 0.5. So we'll go ahead and put a notch of flaps out, help us slow down. Not gonna try the ILS or anything, since we are flying VFR and it's a beautiful day. And again, we're kind of descending a little bit rapidly here, but that's fine. Had to make it over some mountains at the last minute there that I wasn't really anticipating, but that's fine because this thing can pull it off. Gonna add a little bit more flap just to help us slow down even more, and oh boy, we are losing airspeed now. Like to grease it at about 100. Not the longest strip here. Alright, and it's telling us we need to go ahead and add a little bit of power. Let's get that gear out. Alright. Not sure what the stall speed is in this configuration, but I'm guessing it's pretty well below 100 knots. We are looking good here. Add a little bit of power. Alright, we'll go ahead and pull it. Let's flare. Come on. There we go. Awesome. And we're braking. Not too sure how long this strip is, but I'm sure it's fine. Let's take a look at our ground roll here. Right on the center line. Suck those flaps up. Alright, guys and girls, this has been a real fun flight for me from Honolulu over to Maui, our final destination. So I guess now we can go to work or whatever, our little commuter Cirrus SF50. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you'd like to see a full VHF tutorial in the 172, because I could definitely do that. I'd like to see a recent one. I have seen some really excellent ones from like X-Plane 8, but I haven't seen a good one for a recent flight sim. Dislike the video if you didn't like it. If you want me to do something else, you know, when you drop the dislike, do let me know why you didn't like the video. Criticism is great, so long as it's constructive. And get subscribed for more content just like this, and I will see you guys in the next part. Peace.